Recording in progress.
my mic on. Be observed online through the Placer County website. If you would like to make a public comment on any item today, the Planning Commission clerk will announce when you are to line up to provide testimony. Please be prepared to speak at the time I open public comment for the specific item that you would like to address, which may include public comment for matters not on the published agenda or hearing items. Each commenter will be entitled to 3 minutes of the comment, and you will only be given one opportunity to speak on each item. Thank you for your consideration as we work to ensure that each citizen who wishes to comment has the opportunity to do so. Please also be advised that today's hearing is being recorded and will be available on the Planning Commission's webpage following the hearing. As we don't have any items on the consent calendar, I will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is a report from the Planning Director. Hi, Mr. Puhuli. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to do roll call. Sasha, if you could do that, please.
Watts,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Beckler,
Here?
Runtine,
Here.
Jewell,
Here.
Alves,
Here.
Dahlgren absent.
Thank you. Chris?
Okay, good morning, Vice Chair Beckler, Commissioners, Chris Puhuli, Placer County Planning Director. You should all have a copy of my Planning Director's report in front of you. Wanted to start with upcoming Board of Supervisor items. We have on November 18th the TBAP amendment package going to the board. As a reminder, this one, the Planning Commission recommended approval on a series of 7-0 votes of that amendment package on September 11th. I also wanted to take a moment and note the Hopeway Apartments that the Planning Commission considered at your last meeting on October 16th. Wanted to mention to the Commission that 3 appeals were filed based on the Commission's decision to deny the design review agreement, approve 8 of the 9 concessions and waivers, and approve the CEQA conformity review. Appeals were filed on behalf of Penryn Citizens for Neighborhood Rights, USA Properties, the project applicant, and the YIMBY Law group. The appeals are posted on the project website, the county's project website. The date for the appeal hearing before the board has not yet been finalized. Once it is, our project website will be updated with the hearing information. So wanted to note that for the commission. As far as upcoming Planning Commission meetings, for your 11/6 meeting, there are no items that are scheduled to be brought before the commission, and therefore the meeting will be canceled, 11/6. 11/13, we have 3 items, including the zoning text amendment. We previously did a workshop in front of the Planning Commission on that zoning text amendment package, so there's quite a bit of amendments in it. I would expect that that item will take some time to work through with the commission. So that 11/13 meeting should be quite full with those 3 items. On 12/4, we have 2 items that are tentatively planned for that meeting. 12/11, which also coincides with a board hearing. We don't have any items, so it's very likely that that 12/11 meeting will be canceled. And then 12/18, we have a full agenda with 4 items, including the Affordable Housing Nexus Study informational item that we tentatively have planned for that date. So given the schedule that's proposed, if you are going to be absent or not able to make one of those dates, please let the clerk of the Planning Commission clerk as well as myself know about it so that we can plan accordingly.
Chair, can I ask a quick question? Sorry to interrupt. I see we're at, for December, we have the 4th, 11th, and 18th as potential dates. 2 of them are nailed down. Are we gently moving away from 2nd and 4th, or is that the one on the 4th just added to cover for the month of December?
Yeah, good question. In the past, we had kept to a second and fourth Thursday schedule. This past year, in working with the Planning Commission clerk, we really worked to develop a schedule or a calendar that sought to not have as many conflicts with the Board of Supervisor meetings. And so you may recall that this year we did have a handful of meetings that fell on either the first or third Thursday, again, in an effort not to conflict as much. And so you did adopt a calendar at the beginning of the year for Planning Commission. We are expecting that you will do the same, or be asked to do the same for a 2026, which will likely not hold to a second and fourth Thursday.
That's troubling for me, so I'll need to talk to you afterwards.
Okay. Yep. The last set of updates that I wanted to provide was related to some administrative items. The first, just as a reminder again, we have coming up the League of California Cities Planning Commissioner Academy, March 11th through March 13th. Once that registration is open, we'll be working with all of you to gauge interest and get people scheduled for that conference. Your next quarterly report with the projects that will be heard before the Planning Commission will be provided to you at the late January meeting. And then I also just wanted to provide a quick staffing update as well for you. So in the recent past, we've hired a number of new planners in our organization, some at the senior planner level that you'll be hearing from over the course of the next couple of meetings. One of those more recent hires is going to be presenting item 2 today, Mr. Nazar Slim. So you'll be hearing from him. You'll be hearing from another new senior planner at the November 13th meeting. So wanted to let you know that you'll be hearing from some new, more recent hires over the course of the next couple months. And with that, I conclude my presentation. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much, Chris. Questions from other commissioners? No? All right, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Did you have a question? Yeah, the next item on the agenda are planning commissioner reports. So I'll ask if any of the commissioners have anything to report or information they'd like to share. George?
Yeah, so as Chris mentioned, we historically go to the California League of Cities Planning Commission Academy. And so this last weekend, I also attended the California Counties Planning Commission Association meeting. It was down in the Central Valley. And I handed each of you just kind of a summary of the agendas and the items that we went through. It kind of gives you some detail on the things that we saw. And just a couple of highlights. Well, what I thought was the true difference between the two sessions is the California League of Cities is very informational. We spend a lot of time receiving a lot of information, having discussions. This one was what I would consider educational. This was a hands-on type meeting. So we were on a bus basically the majority of both days with sessions in meetings along the way. But just some highlights. We went to a low-income housing development, which includes 50 permanent supportive houses. So these are mobile home type facilities that these people actually live in those homes. They can be there short-term, long-term, or forever. Next to that, they were building 60 self-help houses. So these are actually 1,000-square-foot homes, kind of like Habitat for Humanity. These individuals actually build the homes. They're paid a wage for the period, building 10 homes at a time. Nobody moves into a home until all 10 are done. And then they own those homes. They purchase them. So it gives them the opportunity to do that. Next to that was a high-density housing development, similar to the one we heard last week. This one was 126 homes. It's been established for quite some time, so we were able to see what they actually look like and how they're positioned and people living there, and you could actually get a feel for what it would be. Went to, it's called Seton Pistachio, 135-acre processing plant, produces 250 million pounds annually. So you actually walk through the plant, so you see the whole process from dumping it sorting them, processing them, packaging them is, they never really said it, but when you finally got to the packaging station, they were doing Costco brand pistachios, so they did that. Another highlight was CalGen Renewable Fuels Facility that produces 55 million gallons of low-carbon ethanol per year. They're connected by 56 miles of pipes to up to 21 dairies in the area. Each of those dairies having an average of about 4,000 cows. So they all have processing plants on the facility, and then methane is processed over to that facility. So as part of that, they process that for renewable methane gas. And I think I mentioned, maybe I didn't mention, they produce 55 million gallons of ethanol a year. So a very large facility. And again, walk through the whole process and see it. So very hands-on, kind of a different approach from the two different programs that we see. I'm from the Central Valley, so it was new, that development and the way it's expanded in the many years since I left there. But very educational, and it'll be at a different location, different place next year. And as that comes up, I'll pass that on.
Thank you.
Sorry for the long report.
No, that's great. Sharing. Any other commissioner reports? Okay, great. We'll move right along. I will now open up to public comment for any matters not on the Planning Commission agenda. As a reminder, you will have 3 minutes to provide comments. So is there anyone in the audience that would like to make public comment for any items not on the agenda? I'm seeing none. Do we have anyone with our accommodation? Thank you.
We do. Diane, you can unmute your mic and give your comments, please.
Greeting. Oh, sorry. Sorry, choked. Greetings, commissioners. This is Diane Louise Alessi from Christian Valley Park. And I'm here to urge you to defend Foster County's sovereign right to control our land use. For decades, our home rule charter status gave us authority over how, where we grow. But since 2017, Sacramento has passed SB 35, SB 9, AB 1893, and many, many more, stripping the power without proof of a statewide concern. These laws force us to rezone rural land for high-density, low-income housing without requiring developers to pay for roads, water, or sewers. Foster County, this means you and I subsidize urban-style projects with our taxes. The Hopeway site, 240 units, millions in infrastructure paid by us. The Auburn-Folsom corridor, same story. HCD demands 3,400 low-income units by 2029, much of it on green fields with no transit, no services, no plan. And if we push back, builders remedy lawsuits, developers bypass all rules, and the Attorney General can fine us $50,000 a month under SB 1037. That money doesn't fix our roads. It goes to affordable housing somewhere else. This isn't shared responsibility. It's a statewide mandate overreach. We can fight back, and we must. First, litigate. Join the charter cities suing to restore home rule. A 2024 ruling struck down by SB 9 in 5 cities. Let's build on that. Second, lobby. Work with CSAC and rural counties to demand 2026 reforms, infrastructure funding, not just mandates. Third, use local tools, adopt strict objective standards, prioritize infill, and form a regional finance authority to capture developer fees, not taxpayer dollars. Commissioners, compliance is not surrender. It's not surrender. We can meet state goals our way, protecting rural character, fiscal health, and public safety. Ask you, put a defend local control resolution on the next agenda, support litigation. demand infrastructure parity, and stand with residents, not Sacramento. Our home rule charter is our shield. Let's defend it. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, for your comment. Do we have anyone else?
No, I see no hands.
Is there anyone, do we have a Tahoe convenience location?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will go ahead and close public comment. We're now moving on to the hearing items on today's agenda. Item 1 is the consideration of an amendment to the Placer Vineyards Property 1A Development Agreement and a modification to the small lot vesting tentative subdivision map. Staff is requesting a continuance for this item.
Excuse me,
to
Chair.
December 4th.
Excuse me, I need
Yes.
to recuse.
Okay.
As I am principal in that project.
Thank you. I will wait until Commissioner Rontin leaves the dais. Thank you. Staff is requesting a continuance for this item to December 4th, 2025's Planning Commission agenda. Chris, is there anything else you'd like to add on this particular item?
No, no further information to add from
Okay.
staff.
Okay, so what I will do is open public comment for the continuance only on this item, and then we will move to motion for the continuance. So is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on the continuance? Do we have anyone via the accommodation?
I see no hand raised.
Okay, I will close public comment on this item. If I can get a motion from commissioners, unless there's-
Before we do a motion on this, staff's recommendation is a continuance to December 4th, 2025. Within that recommendation is also a request that it be heard at 9 a.m. or as soon thereafter. So this
Okay.
would be a continuance to both a date and time certain.
Okay, thank you, Clayton.
Okay, I make the motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second. Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, was that Alves?
Yes.
Second?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Johnson,
Yes?
Alves,
Yes.
Watts,
Yes?
Jewel,
Yes.
Beckler,
Yes. Okay. We'll wait for Commissioner Rontin to come back. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a modification to an approved conditional use permit for the Woodbridge Ranch subdivision. For this item, the Planning Commission is the decision body. The presentation will be given by Senior Planner Nizar Slim. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairperson Beckler and Commissioners. Senior Planner Nizar Slim presenting. So the following item for your consideration is as you said, conditional use permit modification, PLN 2500179. And here's a vicinity map of the area in Granite Bay, and the site is in blue. Looks like items may have shifted in transit, but that little circle there is to denote the site, shifted over. Here's a close-up. Address is 3855 Country Park Drive in, Country Park Drive in Woodbridge Ranch subdivision. General plan designation is rural, low-density residential. The zoning is a residential single-family with special setback standards. And here's the project site. One thing to note, the project site is showing not only the current lot configuration, but we'll discuss this further in the presentation, the additional property that's going to be added to that lot. And that's denoted by this, oops, there it goes, but it's that red line. Here's the existing development that's on the site. As you can see by the pictures, you have a single-family residence, there's a pergola, utility shed, covered patio, basketball court, and ground swimming pool. And two of these items will be discussed a little bit further because they have some relevance to the action being taken. Again, proposed project is a conditional use permit modification to the Woodbridge Estates subdivision 109 CUP 722, the approved final map. Modification will result in an open space common area Lot A. I believe it's currently 13.5, will be 13.7. Would adjust 0.22 acre portion of that land to Lot 14. Again, as noted, if I can get this to work. Anyway, again, it's that red line that's being shown there. And of course, the associated minor boundary line adjustment, MBLA, to configure that common property line between Lot 14 and Lot A. Again, that's that the red outline there is the existing lot right now, 14. Some history on this. The original entitlement action was an EIR for the Woodbridge Ranch subdivision phases 4 and 5. That was approved November of 1983. Subdivision map was recorded, and again, this is track 592 Woodbridge Ranch. It's Unit 4A, Book O of Maps, page 34, and that was in 85. Subsequently, in 87, they had a remapping of the 100-year floodplain, and so that was reflected in the new recordation for the Unit 5A, and that happened in November of 87. And of course, brings us to today. There's a current modification request here for the final map to adjust the lines between the HOA property, which is the Lot A, and the privately owned Lot 14. In the way of background, this is kind of more of a pictorial representation of what that history is. So as I mentioned, in 1985, we did the subdivision map. This is for track 592 on the Woodbridge Ranch was recorded. There was a new floodplain delineated, which brought that line, what used to be just congruent to the borders you saw in yellow. Well, in 87, that changed, and so it went a little bit further up. The reason we're here today is the CUP modification requirement is found in 2 sections of our code. Let's read this off here. Section 17.64090, PD and cluster development permits and development requirements, modifications of PD. In this case, this is a planned development. Cluster lot developments establishes that modifications to the planned developments can be made through a minor boundary line adjustment process, provided that the 10 conditions listed therein are met, including the open space areas are not reduced. Also requires that the MBLA would not meet the parameters of the conditions listed in the code, then the matter must be considered by the Planning Commission. And that first bulleted point is that that Lot A, which is the common space, is going to be reduced ever so slightly by 0.22 acres, and that's why we're here. Otherwise, this would have been an administrative process. The second part, section 17.58, 180, changes to the approved project. Projects involve changes to project features considered as part of the original approved requires consideration from the granting authority. In this case, original granting authority was the Planning Commission. Hence, we're here again today to have that considered. And again, for some more background, these are the adjacent lots. Now, this is just an approximation of what the property lines look like surrounding Lot 14. And I'm not going to attempt to do the highlight again, but you see Lot 14 there. And there's some residential on-site improvements. They reflect the recognized border between the 100-year floodplain and the private ownership. However, there actually are on Lot A, and that's shown by that little orange triangle there. Why not? Try it one more time. And nothing, no spotlight. Okay. Again, the area to be exchanged between Lot 14 and HOA Lot A is the property that's in orange. Again, that orange triangle. Little side note, that Lot 15 there did have a similar process done in 87. They did it shortly after they updated that 100-year floodplain. The reason we did not have to go back to PC, though, is because they actually exchanged an even amount of property, so the common space never got reduced. Okay, that's just an interesting little side note. Again, just to kind of focus on the on-site development, I have a previously constructed backyard amenities, fence, shed, basketball court, and gazebo, and all those, or some of those are actually outside the boundaries of Lot 14. Again, the area in orange, and just kind of slightly shaded there. prior ownership for Lot 14 never officially adjusted the property line. They just assumed that it happened somehow and carried on with that as though that was under their ownership. The previously constructed shed, as mentioned, and gazebo, covered patio are required to be permitted. This is going to be part of the conditions of approval, and needed retroactive building permit to be applied for within 30 days of approval of the CUP. The shed will be moved outside the required setback, and all other development standards are being met. So as I showed highlighted there is a shed that does need to be moved outside the setback, and the gazebo, which is currently partially on their property and partially on Lot A, will also get a permit. There was an informational meeting held with the Granite Bay Municipal Advisory Committee. It was on August 7th. Very minimal questions. One came up regarding a wildlife corridor, habitat considerations. Another statement from the public just noted that they were aware of the current configuration of the property, but they supported the project. As follows, staff recommendation is as follows. Staff recommends the Planning Commission take the following actions. Determine that the proposed modification is categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to sections 15301 and sections 15305 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and sections 18.36.030 Class 1 existing facilities and 18.36.070 Class 5 minor alterations in land use limitations of the Placer County Environmental Review Ordinance. Second, approve a modification to the Woodbridge Ranch Conditional Use Permit, CUP 722, SUB 109, to facilitate adjustment of the mapped and recorded boundaries between lots 14 and the common open space Lot A, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation. Staff is available for questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Do any of the commissioners have questions?
One quick one. So you mentioned the shed is moving, so it's moving in 10 feet, or will be 10 feet from the property line to adjust for that setback or the easement?
Correct. In order to have this minor boundary line adjustment in place, we don't want to have any of the development result in anything that's non-conforming. So in order to meet the development standards, they meet all the development standards except for that one. There's a 10-foot setback that's required from the rear property line. So once that rear property line is established, that structure, and prior to that line being established, that structure will be in fact 10 feet outside that setback.
Okay, and the owner of the property on the opposite side is the HOA?
The owner, yes, correct. That is correct. Is the HOA.
Commissioner Rontin?
Do you know roughly when those improvements were constructed that are sitting in Lot A or currently in Lot A?
I don't have an exact date, but according to some of the aerials we saw, it's been at least 20 years that it's been configured in that fashion. The owner is here today, and maybe they can respond to that. They've done their own research and due diligence. They voluntarily came forward with this when they discovered, in fact, after purchasing the property, that it was not configured as represented on the site, and so they're the ones that initiated this.
And when did the current owner purchase the property?
I believe I think it was within the last year.
Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions from the commission? Okay, is the applicant or owner here, would like to make any additional comments? Yes, please come to the podium.
Thank you.
And if you could just state your name for the record, that would be great.
Yes, thank you. My name is Douglas Cappiello, and I'm actually the father of Stephanie Sandretti, and her and her husband Matthew bought the property in July 2024. When they came to the property, the listing actually indicated that everything was part of the property, and in reality that was not an accurate listing. And they discovered during the escrow period that that was the case. So the real estate agents immediately contacted the HOA president, who basically wanted to get this taken care of for many years, and agreed to a minor boundary line adjustment, an MBLA. And it was only after we got involved with the Placer County staff that we realized that a modification to the CUP was necessary. So it got more complicated than we expected. But I can tell you that I spoke with the HOA president, Mr. Joseph Bitson, and I also have a friend who's a longtime resident of the Woodbridge Ranch since the 1980s and is a board member as well, and has basically said that the board has been wanting to correct this for many years. I've got satellite photos going back to at least 2003 showing that this property was all developed back then, so definitely over 20 years. So everyone is in agreement that this is something they want to do, the HOA and the new homeowners, my daughter and son-in-law. And in the end, this is a family backyard. When they bought the property, they fell in love with the yard, and like most homeowners, they expected that everything they saw within the fence line was part of the property, and it was only in escrow that they discovered all of this. So we want to thank the commission today for considering this, and I want to give a personal thanks to Nizar Slim and his staff who've worked very hard to put all the pieces together and make this presentation today. So thank you very much, and I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any questions? The only question I would have is, are you agreeable to the recommended conditions of approval that were stated today?
Yes, in fact, my daughter and son-in-law have already contacted a contractor and have gotten an estimate to move the shed. And
Okay.
as soon as approval occurs, they will go ahead and proceed with that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I am going to go ahead and open public comment for this item. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make public comment? I see none. Do we have anyone via accommodation?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Do commissioners have any other comments or questions they'd like to ask for deliberation? Or if you're ready for a motion, we can do that as well.
As part of the deliberation.
Yeah.
So in our staff report, attachment, I believe that was page 4 or 5, something in there. They show pictures from the fence line, and you can see where the shed is right there. And they're moving that, which is good, because there's a lot of heavy vegetation on the other side of that fence. So it's going to give you a little security there. You know, from the county's hazardous vegetation abatement ordinance, it defines that responsibility between the two adjacent owners. So, you know, you're moving that, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, the only other comment I would make is just that, generally, and I know this was in the staff report, you don't want to reduce open space, but I think this case, it makes sense. It's a reasonable measure for something that's been a longstanding issue, and I know at the MAC that was also brought up, so I'm in support of it. Any other comments or questions that people have? Can I get a motion?
I still move.
These can both be taken together, so you can move approval of both items 1 and 2.
Okay.
All right, then I would move approval of the staff recommendation that the Planning Commission take the following actions. First, determine that the proposed modification is categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to section.
Commissioner Watts?
Yes.
These were already read into the record. You
Yeah.
don't need to
I
read
didn't
them again if you
recall
don't
that,
want to.
Sorry. Then my motion stands as just approval. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Sorry about that. Would you be moving for approval of both items 1 and 2, both the CEQA and the modification? Thank you.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay. Johnson, second. Can I get a roll call, please?
Watts,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes?
Rentine,
Yes.
Jewel,
Yes.
Alves,
Yes.
Beckler.
Yes. Okay. That closes items. Since we had no public comment, I won't read the appeal language. So the next item on the agenda is the 2024 Annual Development Agreement Review.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes, go
I
right ahead.
Once again, must
Yep.
recuse myself. I submitted and signed a letter in the package.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Rontine. We will give you a moment to step away. a lively meeting for me to take over as chair. So this item will be presented by Deputy County Executive Officer Michelle Kingsbury. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, good morning, Michelle Kingsbury. I'm here today as well. I wanted to introduce, as part of kind of our newer staff members coming in, Abdul El Casey. He comes to us from the Federal Highway Administration, and we welcome him aboard. He's been here for almost a year, and appreciate him being a part of our team. Sue Compton is the other member of our team that worked on this item. She's currently out of the office today, but I did want to give recognition to her as well for all the work that they do. On an annual basis, we do come before the Planning Commission to do what we call our Development Agreement Compliance Report. We're always about a year in arrears. So this is for calendar year 2024. As part of that endeavor, both Abdul and Sue, we send out notices to our property owners that are located within those areas that are subject to development agreement. They send us back self-certifications to ensure that they're in compliance. In addition to that, we review all the development agreements, and we work closely on a day-to-day basis with our team members in both planning, engineering, and surveying, and other departments, just to make sure folks are in compliance. And so as part of this report, really we call to attention that almost all, everyone except one, are in compliance, and I'll go through a little bit more detail on that. You did receive a package today, which is an errata. It looks pretty big, but what that is it's an appendage to attachment A, which are those self-certifications that we receive. We did receive a last-minute letter from the United Auburn Indian Community regarding their self-certification. They own 3 parcels within the Placer Ranch specific plan, and we got that certification and just wanted to include it as part of the package. Otherwise, the other self-certifications should mirror what was in your original package. I did want to go into a little bit of detail kind of about what we do. We've been here before to Planning Commission. My team, it's just the 3 of us. We do focus quite a bit on the financial side of implementing these large-scale developments that are typically subject to development agreements, our specific plans. In particular, we all have financial backgrounds, so we do a lot of that. In addition, we work, as I mentioned before, quite a bit with our partners in the other divisions negotiating these development agreements. I have the distinct pleasure of working on every single one except the Homewood one, which is and CMEX. That was way before my time, but otherwise I've worked on every one. The CEO's office did establish this team for some continuity purposes as I'm getting toward the latter half of my career, and being able to transfer that knowledge and the financial aspect of it. These are really large-scale developments, which I think on total about 33,000 total units at full build-out. And so it's almost, that financial perspective of how do you fund high urban services and things like that. And so we also set up all CFDs. We do CSA zones of benefit, those financial tools that provide us revenues to fund the services. We set up fees. Abdul and I were talking, we probably have about 300 different fee codes depending on different land use types. We do all the reporting associated with that. We work with Treasurer's Office on all the bonding associated with Melrose. We really get into those intricacies related to these development agreements and the implementation. We also are the enforcers too. We do send out the notices if folks are in arrears, trying to work through and work with our team partners as well as how to get people back into compliance. Catch up on my notes. All total, we have about 64 different development agreements. Most of those are centered within the Placer Vineyard specific plan, where we do have about 22 different ownership groups. And that's kind of the bulk of those. And as they're proceeding forward in terms of their implementation, you have seen and considered multiple amendments to those development agreements that continue to get refined as these projects build out. And we track all the nuances, making sure we work with our team members as well, knowing, well, this changed, that trigger changed, that changed. We work quite a bit just to ensure we're trying to keep track and making sure everybody's adhering to those conditions going forward. I will kind of take a little bit of time and update a little bit about some of what's going on in these specific plans in particular. Homewood is up in Tahoe. We don't have a lot of work on that. Our Tahoe team typically oversees that. We do have an item going forward at the November 4th board with acceptance of some improvements associated with what we call their Phase 1C. I believe it's Lot 3, which is 7 condo units, and some of the offsite infrastructure that was done. It's an acceptance of those infrastructure improvements that's going forward on November 4th. In terms of our specific plans, I'll kind of walk through each one. We have Bickford Ranch specific plan, which is 1,890 units. As you guys are well aware, they're proceeding forward with their Phase 1A implementation. Phase 1A is 1,049 units. Right now, I think they've pulled about 150-ish building permits. We have about 121 units that are occupied, and they continue to kind of proceed along at a pace each week, pulling building permits down, and as we work through the improvements out there. But they're moving through that initial first phase. I believe they're in kind of, I would say, a quarter of the way through in terms of the in-track improvements that are going underway right now, and you can see all that. That's if you drive out there. In addition to that, Sue, as part of our team, is not here today because she's working with our fire team. We are working forward in planning the development of a fire station site on Bickford. That was part of the planning approvals, that they'll have a fire station site there that will serve not only the development but the surrounding area as well. County did proceed and move forward with a design contract with TSK Consultants, so we're under design for that station, and Sue's working with both our CEO counterparts in the fire division as well as CAL FIRE and our Placer County Fire team on kind of what that design configuration will be. That design process should be completed within between 4 and 6 months, and then based on that design, we'll move forward with the financing plan, figuring out how we pay for it and get it underway with the goal to get under construction probably the latter half of 2026 if all comes together. It'd be about a 14-month construction period, but that will be our first kind of county-constructed new growth fire system or fire station that will have most of our other fire stations we've either inherited through legacy programs and or the one at the Thunder Valley Casino was one built by the tribe and given to us. And so this will really be kind of that model that we'll probably use in terms of what it looks like and replicate that throughout the very specific plans in West Placer. Kind of moving on, I'll talk a little bit about Riolo Vineyard specific plan. That's out in our Dry Creek community. Total capacity on that from a residential perspective was 933 units. Right now, they've built and pretty much received occupancy for about 454 units. And those are the Mariposa, Glen Willow, and what we call Mason Trails subdivisions. It's pretty much built out with the associated improvements for those. We do have a couple other subdivisions under one ownership we call Friswold and Silver Sage. That ownership group that owns those subdivisions is working through, I think they're required to require right-of-way for some off-site improvements along Watt. And so they're proceeding that way, see where they're at probably the end of this year, next year, and whether they'll go to construction on some improvements in those subdivisions. Not quite sure yet, but I know that they are working diligently on looking at right-of-way acquisition out there. Move forward on Placer Vineyards, as you guys are well aware, that's our big one. I think right now it's, with all the density bonus approvals, I think we're about 14,540 units. I think we're right around there in terms of residential unit capacity. Obviously, property 1A, which is Lennar, is the one that's under construction. They have about 780 units as of, I believe, today, pulling permits. Phase 1, 2, and 3 is pretty much built out. That's about 500 units. I believe they're on 4 and 5, their final villages that they're underway on construction. As you're well aware, too, Placer Creek Affordable Apartments, they did receive their infrastructure plan set approvals and have proceeded forward with on-site construction of the improvements there, hoping to get their building permit issued about end of December, beginning of January, so that that project will continue to move forward. That is tax credit funded, and that's our first affordable housing project that would be within our specific plan, and that's 168 affordable housing units. I will make note, too, that our CEO Affordable Housing team members are going to be at the board on consent item on November 4th as well, with what we call our affordable housing agreement. And those are agreements that are required that basically lay out the restrictions that associated that are noted in the development agreement, your income levels, number of units, and kind of renting restrictions. That'll be before our board on November 4th, and that agreement's required to be in place prior to issuance of a building permit, so you can see kind of the sequence of timing lining up to get them to see the tilt up and see the actual framing and construction of that first project underway. For Regional University, kind of going up, we're now a Baseline Road out that way. Not a lot of activity out there. They do have a grading plan submittal for their first phase that came in that I believe comments got back out to that applicant team at the end of January. This is also a project where I believe in the Country Acres Solar Project with SMUD was approved that weaves through portions of that project as well. But other than the solar project with SMUD, and there's not a lot of activity that was going on there. We'll see where the comments to the grading plan that was submitted for their first phase and see kind of next year where that one will be. That is one where we have not formed their CFDs or kind of those financial tools yet. But in all other specific plans, we have laid out all the CFDs and fee programs and stuff like that. And for folks, you know, in terms of scale, a lot of people always ask us about services and how we fund them. The CFDs that we've set up so far in the specific plans, you can think of that as it's over $30 million as a total program. It's about $35 million roughly, and those revenues are meant to augment both property tax revenues and increases in sales tax that come in to fund additional services to support those new growth. And our team manages, between the three of us, all those CFDs and all the reporting. We negotiate them, and we get in there to try and make sure we negotiate enough revenues to come in to fund services. But I always like to tell people kind of the order of magnitude of the dollars that potentially will come in. I'm going to keep going. In West Placer, last but not least, I'm trying to go through Bickford. Going through all of them, Placer Ranch is our other big one that's out there. Obviously, they're well underway. They're very aggressive in their timeline and schedule. They're on their phase one, and phase one's broken up into sub-phases A, B, and C. They're underway in all those sub-phases. Phase 1A is JMC Homes, and you'll see items coming before the board again on November 4th. With acceptance of our Phase 1A backbone, infrastructure improvements, in-track improvements, sewer improvements, and other things, really to get them so that they're able to start pulling what we call production building permits. They're very eager. You see model homes. They have model home permits. You'll see construction and actually units up there. Those are the model homes. There's multiple builders out there, including JMC Homes, KB Homes, Pulte. I believe Taylor Morrison's another one, all active in some form or fashion out there. The development group as well is well underway at what I call their Phase 1B. There's backbone infrastructure underway, almost done on that, as well as in-tract improvements there too. And now they're moving into Phase 1C and the backbone improvements there up along Foothills. So you may see construction staging, large tractors that are out there. They believe they started potholing on some backbone infrastructure, but they'll be pulling water lines and drainage across Foothills Boulevard. So you may see some intermittent enclosures out there as part of that construction activity. That development group also completed part of going forward on November 4th to the board is acceptance of Sunset Boulevard extension, and that's a new roadway extension between Foothills Boulevard and Fittyment that kind of provides an east-west connector for folks out there as we're kind of moving around traffic control plans with all the construction activity out there to make sure with our Thunder Valley Casino and Resort and the concerts that go on and our landfill traffic as well, just making sure we've got some multiple ways in and out of there. But you will see a lot of activity out there over the next couple of years and onward. Our board as well on October 7th, I believe, approved the plans and specifications for Placer Parkway Phase 1. And that's our limited expressway that's planned to go all the way, hopefully one day, out to 7099. But this first phase is the hardest phase, and that is from the Whitney Interchange in Rockland to Foothills Boulevard, landing in the Placer Ranch specific plan. So that bid package is out. I believe the bids, we're looking potentially at a due date in December. That may, just depending on questions, it may get extended to January. But the construction portion of that project is estimated to be $106 million. The total project cost just for that first phase is $160 million when you add in all the design, all the soft costs and staff time costs, permitting costs, right-of-way acquisition, et cetera. But, you know, staff has worked very hard, and they are underway with the bid package being released, and we're keeping our fingers crossed we get some good bids in. That project ultimately is funded by what we call Tier 2 fees, that these specific plans mainly for us, it's Placer Ranch, Regional University, and Placer Vineyards pay this specific fee. It's called a Tier 2 fee, but other specific plans in Lincoln and Roseville as well pay into that fee program, and that fee program is meant to fund Placer Parkway. Obviously, the county, when we get the bid package back, we're going to have to scrub our numbers. We potentially may need to do some gap financing because we don't have the $106 million in fees that have been collected to date. But it's important for that project as well because that does bring the water line from Whitney Interchange. It's an equivalent 42-inch water line from PCWA that will come over and across the railroad track, which will ultimately be kind of where that the ultimate water system for this West Placer area. So the water line is probably the most critical thing right now, is to get that water line extended across the railroad track there. There's other stuff going on as well in that area. Potentially on December 9th at the board, you may see an item. It's an MOA, or Memorandum of Agreement, with the CSU for the forensic lab. And that agreement would be just to move it to the design phase, kind of the next. We've talked concept-wise, but now just, moving forward on design. It's about $2.5 million commitment. I think it's tentatively scheduled for a December board. We may see it on that item too. We do also, our team, other team members in the CEO's office, work on the Regional Public Safety Training Center that's planned out there with Sierra College on property that's owned by the landfill, kind of what best of Fitiment on that side, the expansion area of the landfill. So there's a lot of activity still going on there. They're in due diligence phase on a purchase agreement out there for, I think it's between 40 and 50 acres potentially to be purchased. Last but not least, you did hear presentations from us as well, that we did move forward and form back in July the Enhanced Infrastructure Finance District in the Sunset area, which does overlap Placer Ranch specific plan. And we're coming back to our Public Finance Authority Board, which is the board that oversees that finance program, with both a budget and starting to talk about policies and what they want to see in terms of some potential investment opportunities out there, whether, are they looking to any increment revenue that we dedicate into this finance district? Do we want to support all housing right now? Do we want to look at infrastructure improvements, and really wanting to work with that board about what kind of their next 5-year objectives are? At a minimum, the county has agreed to dedicate $1 million per year, can go up to that, just depending on increment, but it really depends on each budget every year and where we are in terms of revenue generation versus expenses, and what we can dedicate above and beyond that $1 million, which was our base dedication amount to that. That is a lot of information. I do want to note, do it all on top of my head. I do want to note, though, that your package does note that CMEX, still is in arrears in terms of some easement dedications, as well as we work with them. They owe tonnage fees based upon what they pull out of that mine area, and they are in arrears on the tonnage fees too. We've continued to notify them. We have met with them over the last year, both Alex, Chris, myself, Clayton, just trying to kind of what we hope to get out of them as a plan to get them back in compliance. We're kind of waiting on responses from them. In terms of the tonnage fees that are in arrears, Sue's worked quite a bit with them. If we can't get payment current, they have a lessor out there that they're working with to try and get those payments in. Our next step typically is to forward that to Revenue Services, which is kind of the county's debt collection arm of things. But we stay on top of it, particularly if it revolves money, and continue to work with them. They're responsive. It's just trying to get caught up with the lessor out there and the fees and stuff. So we hopefully next year at least can have the financial portion all caught up on them. And so that concludes my presentation. I know it's a lot. I'm not a PowerPoint person. There's a lot of activity going on, and I do want to say, rest assured, we do monitor quite a bit. Particularly Sue and Abdul do all the monitoring of the fees, which are extensive, and they're unique with each of these development areas because they have their own set of fees. And work quite a bit with Permit Counter, work quite a bit with DPW. Sue audits quite a bit on an annual basis, particularly Tier 2 fee collection, just to make sure we're doing it right. And if we're not, we go bill back and get those fees in, because you know how important they are. But given our backgrounds all in finance, and given my kind of end of term, I appreciate the opportunity by the board and the CEO's office to be able to work with this team and kind of transfer all that knowledge down, and appreciate always your support too. So we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Sorry, if I can
If there are none, I can read
interject
into the
really
record.
quickly.
Yeah.
Michelle,
ahead,
if you can
Chris.
advance the slide,
There it goes.
and if you might want to,
I'll read it into the record.
okay.
Sure, I'll read this and then we'll take any questions. So staff recommends the Planning Commission take the following actions. Number 1 is to determine the developer entities for the Bickford Ranch specific plan, Placer Vineyard specific plan, Riolo Vineyard specific plan, Regional University specific plan, Placer Ranch specific plan, and Homewood master plan have made a good faith effort to comply with the terms and conditions of the respective development agreements during the 2024 annual review period. And number 2 is determine the proposed action is not a project pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, section 15378. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Michelle. I'll bring it back to the commission. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to maybe step back into they call it CMEX, but I guess it's T development now where it's Bear River Sand and Gravel.
Correct.
And if my memory serves me, they were out of compliance last year also, weren't they?
That is correct.
And so when you read what their letter says, they're talking about their continually reminding CRM of its obligation. But I guess the question is, how long is the county going to go along with this before they take subsequent action?
We continue, and Alex might know a little bit more of the background here, but we continue to send letters and work with them to try and get them to at least give us a plan of how to get in compliance. It is kind of in their court right now. Again, we met with them a few months ago, and I think we're hoping to get a response this year and kind of tackle that. I don't know exactly from a legal perspective where we might go or not on it, but I would say over this next year, we'll continue to try and work with them and see if we can get at least a plan of how to get back into compliance.
I think just to add on to what Michelle's saying, I think, as she noted, we did meet with them earlier in the year. We felt like it was a constructive meeting, and that they're taking steps towards remedying the situation. So we're going to continue to actively work to resolve the noncompliance issues, and if that doesn't result in compliance, then we'll work with county council to take appropriate steps.
Okay, well, that's good. It seems like the word hope and continue to remind, that can only go on so long. So that's just my comment. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Other questions? Michelle, thanks for the presentation. I had two quick questions. Is the Bickford Ranch Station in the Placer County Fire District, or which district?
It's in Placer County Fire District.
It is, okay.
Correct.
Okay. And then I'm more out of curiosity, the SMUD Solar Project, has that started to break ground, or?
Chris may know more than I
I
do.
know you brought it up. You may not know the
it's all right.
details.
Yes, it is under construction. The Country Acres project, the one that Michelle mentioned, that is part of the, or that includes a portion of the regional university specific plan. Should also note, you've seen it on your quarterly reports, that SMUD has also filed an application for another solar facility just to the west of that Country Acres.
Okay.
Which will be ultimately subject to the Planning Commission's review.
Okay. And I remember when the Country Acres one came forward, there was a negotiated agreement for the PCCP, because
Right.
technically they didn't have to go into, so do you guys manage, have the fees to the PCCP been paid then for that project? Do you guys oversee that fee structure as well?
We work with Greg McKenzie.
You
That's
do?
his
Okay.
fee program. However, I will confirm that all fees were paid the end of last year.
They were?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. It was
Okay.
approximately almost $25 million.
Yeah, I know it was a sizable amount.
Correct.
Okay,
Does
thank
that
you.
facility include a battery backup system?
Typically it does.
Yes.
I didn't, it was before my times.
It does.
Okay. If no other questions, thank you, Michelle. I will go ahead and open up public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a comment on this item in the audience? I see none. Sasha, is there anyone via accommodation?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Since there was nothing to clarify, Michelle, commissioners, do you have anything to share as far as deliberations? No? I will accept a motion then if someone wants to do that.
These items can be both moved together as well.
Okay, thank you.
Make a motion that Planning Commission take action to approve the following items 1 and 2 as read into the record by staff.
Okay. First by Al, second by Jewel. Can I get a roll call, please?
Alves,
Yes?
Jewel,
Yes.
Watts,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes?
Beckler,
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Get our other commissioner back. Welcome back. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a conditional use permit and zoning clearance for the Twin Rocks Estate Winery. For this item, the Planning Commission is the decision body, and the presentation will be given by Senior Planner David Olroy Uraz. Welcome, David.
Good morning, Chair Beckler, Commissioners. I'm David Oriuros, Senior Planner, here to present the Twin Rocks Winery Conditional Use Permit and Zoning Clearance. The project is located at 6635 Cabot-Stallman Road within the residential agricultural combining minimum building site of 4.6 acres zoning district. The project is surrounded on all sides by residential agricultural zone properties. And here we have some overview graphics showing the location of adjacent residences, a half-mile use map, and the property's site plan. I would note that the closest residence is approximately 330 feet away from the winery. All properties within a half-mile radius of the property are agricultural residential uses, with the exception of a place of worship located approximately 700 west of the subject property, and another place of worship located approximately 0.45 miles southwest of the subject property. Clicker's not working. There we go. So some background, an administrative review permit for the Twin Rocks Winery, formerly known as the Sayre Winery, was approved by the Planning Commission on May 28, 2020. Subsequently, it was appealed to the Board of Supervisors, who upheld the Planning Commission's decision on September 1st, 2020. This approval allowed for the construction of an 11,000 square foot small winery, inclusive of a 4,300 square foot production area, a 4,600 square foot tasting room, a 2,300 square foot wine cave, and a 6,200 square foot outdoor patio. Annual production permitted was up to 20,000 cases annually. The approval allowed for up to 203 people per day based on septic system limitations. Operation for the tasting room was permitted between 10 o'clock a.m. and 6 o'clock p.m., Wednesday through Sunday, with appointment-only tasting between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., and public tasting from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. The approval also allowed for 6 promotional events per year, such as winemaker dinners and other agricultural promotional events, which could operate between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. While the administrative review permit for the winery was in process, the Board of Supervisors adopted an updated winery and farm brewery ordinance, which provided for the allowance of an accessory use restaurant via a conditional use permit, and expanded allowances for agricultural promotional events and special events through a zoning clearance. Because the administrative review permit for the Twin Rocks Winery was deemed complete pursuant to the Permit Streamlining Act prior to the adoption of the updated ordinance, the project was processed under that prior ordinance. This brings us to the requested project before you today, which is a conditional use permit for the allowance of an accessory use restaurant pursuant to Section 1756-330, Table 1 of the Placer County Code, and a zoning clearance to modify permitted events to be consistent with the number and type of events permitted by the current wineries and farm breweries ordinance. I would note that the zoning clearances are typically staff level and review consistency with county standards, which in this case would be focused on parking and noise. However, given the approval of the zoning clearance would amend the conditions of the previously approved administrative review permit, the event allowances have been incorporated into the project description and are reflected in the recommended conditions of approval for the CUP. Accessory use restaurants are defined by the winery ordinance as food prepared or food preparation and service that is related and clearly subordinate to the existing primary use on property as a winery. This is in contrast with the general restaurant use, which is defined as having the primary purpose of selling prepared food to the public for consumption. To ensure alignment with the accessory definition, Condition 3 has been included, limiting food service to visitors who have purchased a wine tasting. Based on conversations with the applicant, staff has confirmed that their operation is fully reservation-based, and a wine tasting will be required for this reservation. I would also note here that food service is permitted with the current administrative review permit in the form of a food truck. If the accessory use restaurant were to be approved, the food truck would be replaced by the commercial kitchen for food preparation. Section 1756-330 D4 of the current wineries and farm breweries ordinance allows for an unlimited number of agricultural promotional events and up to 12 special events per year with the granting of a zoning clearance. Agricultural promotional events are defined as events directly related to the education and marketing of wine and craft beer to consumers, including but not limited to winemaker dinners, pickup parties, release parties, and professional events or gatherings that support the promotion of the agricultural product. These events are permitted for up to 50 attendees per event. In contrast, special events are events in which the agricultural-related component is subordinate to the primary purpose of the event. Included in this definition are events such as private parties, fundraisers, concerts, and social or educational gatherings where outside alcohol may be allowed. And these events are generally events where the property owner is being compensated in exchange for the use of their property. These events may be permitted for up to 200 attendees. While the ordinance allows an unlimited number of agricultural promotional events annually, the applicant does propose capping this at 208 events. The applicant also proposes the 12 yearly special events consistent with the allowances of the ordinance. Regarding general facility hours of operation, tasting room hours are permitted from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. 5 days per week, noting that the tasting room will be closed 2 days per week. The agricultural promotional events, which would be limited to occurring between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and Sunday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., consistent with the allowances of the ordinance. I would also note that the 203 visitor per day limit will be maintained. Staff has reviewed the request alongside the standards of the winery ordinance, which include permitted hours of operation, noise, number of events, and parking, and has found that all standards are met. Pursuant to the ordinance, a submittal of a noise study is required, demonstrating consistency with the limits for sensitive receptors as contained in the county noise ordinance prior to hosting any event with amplified speech or music when located within 750 feet of a sensitive receptor, which is defined as residential, school, places of worship, and similar uses that could be adversely impacted by noise. As the nearest residence is approximately 330 feet away, a noise study was required and subsequently prepared by Saxelby Acoustics. It found that the project would comply with the requirements of the noise ordinance based on specific speaker output and orientation. Consistency with the speaker output and orientation recommended by the noise study have been included as conditions of approval, which I will go over in more detail later on in the presentation. Regarding parking, the applicant is proposing 80 overflow parking spaces in addition to the existing tasting room and production parking areas, meeting the code required parking minimums. I would note here that the two outdoor locations at which events would occur, with event one being adjacent to the pond northeast of the main winery building, and event area 2 being the existing outdoor patio of the tasting room. The graphics here depict the decibel contours from the acoustical analysis or noise study, demonstrating how decibels would dissipate from the areas of amplified sound. Here we have a zoomed-in site plan of the existing main winery building and surrounding parking. This also shows the outdoor patio as discussed in the prior slide at which outdoor events could occur. Here is the floor plan of the existing main winery building showing the location of the existing storage area proposed for conversion to the commercial kitchen. The area of conversion totals 438 square feet. I would also note that the accessory use restaurant in terms of modifications to the existing winery is limited to this commercial kitchen with no new square footage or dining areas being proposed with the application. And of course, they would still be meeting that 203 daily maximum. This is an overall site plan of the property showing the location of the main winery building on the property, the location of the proposed outdoor events, and the location of the overflow parking areas. Regarding the overflow parking, these spaces would be limited or would be improved with an aggregate base, wheel stop, and backup drive aisle of 25 feet off of the existing internal roadway. So those parking areas are the ones that are highlighted kind of in a pinkish color there on the site plan. Regarding environmental review, for the administrative review permit, which granted the approval of the existing winery, a mitigated negative declaration known as the Sayre Winery M&D was prepared and adopted with the approval. Pursuant to Section 15164 of the CEQA guidelines, an addendum to the Sayre Winery M&D was prepared for this project, which evaluated environmental resources in terms of the current project. Through the preparation of the addendum, it was concluded that the project is consistent with the Sayre Winery M&D and that there are no new or substantially more severe project-specific significant effects. However, additional mitigation measures were included in regards to noise, noting recommendations from the noise study to ensure that conformance with the noise ordinance is maintained. Here we have some noteworthy conditions. Condition 3 limits food service to those purchasing a wine tasting to ensure the accessory use restaurant definition is maintained. Condition 5 limits daily attendance to 203 people per day. I would note here that this applies across the board and includes regular tastings, agricultural promotional events, and special events, so that no matter the programming for the day, there will never be more than 203 visitors per day. Condition 7, which is also a mitigation measure, requires a sound check prior to events to ensure conformance with the assumptions of the noise study. Condition 8 sets sound system output limits, also based on the recommendations of the noise study. Condition 9 requires that any speakers in event area 1 be oriented to the north. Condition 10 requires that amplified sound or music not occur during nighttime hours, which are defined by the code as 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And lastly, Condition 11, which requires posting of special event dates on the Twin Rocks website, a minimum of 7 days in advance of the event, so the community can be informed by going to their website. The project was presented before the Granite Bay MAC on February 6, 2025 and August 7, 2025. Concerns raised included impacts from the Twin Rocks Winery on traffic study, the concern of noise originating from the agricultural promotional events and special events, the concern of the agricultural character of the neighborhood being replaced by commercial operations, and the concern of additional lighting. Staff coordinated with the Department of Public Works on accident data for the 32-month period before and after the opening of the winery. The data showed that there was not an increase in the instances of traffic collisions or DUIs after the opening of the winery. Regarding general traffic, a traffic study was prepared and concluded that the existing B and A levels of service would be maintained with the project. Subsequent to the initial MAC meeting, the noise study prepared by Saxel B Acoustics was completed, concluding that the project would conform to the county noise ordinance standards with the incorporation of conditions 8, 9, and 10. And there is no additional lighting proposed with this submittal. So some final key points. The project as proposed is consistent with all applicable provisions of the Placer County Code, including the noise ordinance and farm brewery and winery ordinance. The project is consistent with the general plan and implements general plan policy 1HI regarding the preservation of agricultural uses, as the property maintains the continued use of the property for the growing of grapes for wine production, the growing of olives for the off-site production of olive oil, and the growing of fruits and vegetables to be used in food prepared at the accessory use restaurant. The property would also retain its active Williamson Act contract and its status as the largest agricultural property in the vicinity, noting its 79-acre parcel size. The proposal would not result in any decrease in agricultural production on the property. Staff also did consult with the agricultural commissioner, who did not raise any concerns with the proposal. The project further implements General Plan Policy 1N13, and it's called to support foothill area tourism, and Policy 3A7 as it maintains a level of C or better level of service. The project will maintain the 203 per day limit and would ensure it replace existing food service from a food truck with a permanent commercial kitchen within the existing square footage of the winery, and the project would also allow for agricultural events and special events consistent with the current winery ordinance. I would note here that we have received multiple comments for and against the project. Those against generally indicated a concern that the accessory use restaurant would be operated as a full-service restaurant and that the use is not permitted in the residential agricultural zoning district. The project has been conditioned to be secondary to the winery, with the requirement of the purchase of a wine tasting in order for the purchase of food. Staff also notes that the ordinance as adopted by the board does allow for consideration of an accessory use restaurant in the residential agricultural zoning district with a conditional use permit, and allows agricultural promotional events and special events in the zoning district with the approval of a zoning clearance. With the board's approval of the administrative review permit, it did find accessory food service to be compatible with the Williamson Act for the winery. Other comments indicated adequate sewage capacity. I would note as part of this project, the existing leach field is being expanded into the existing repair area, and a new repair area has been identified and evaluated by environmental health and found to be appropriate. And with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the addendum to the mitigated negative declaration prepared for the project pursuant to Section 15164 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and Section 18.16.090 of the Placer County Environmental Review Ordinance, and amendments to the Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program, and approve a conditional use permit to allow for an accessory use restaurant at the existing Twin Rocks Estate Winery, and grant zoning clearance to conduct up to 208 agricultural promotional events and 12 special events annually, consistent with the allowances set forth in Placer County Code Section 1756-330, which is the Wineries and Farm Breweries Ordinance, subject to the recommended conditions of approval. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. We're also joined by the applicant this morning.
Thank you so much, David. Do any of the commissioners have questions for David? Go ahead.
Okay, I do have one question, or maybe two questions. One, it's quite common for when people are going wine tasting to maybe have somebody with them that is a non-drinker, you know, a designated driver, or whatever you want to call them.
Sure.
But the way this is worded, if they're going to have a bite to eat, then the non-drinker is going to have to sit in the car or do something else, because the way it's worded, they won't be able to participate in the meal unless they buy a glass of wine.
So maybe I'll just interject and we can have the applicant speak to it as well. But my understanding is that they have to have a reservation. So the reservation may be for 4 people, maybe 3 of them are tasting wine, the other is there along with them, but they are required to have a reservation.
So if they have a reservation, then the non-drinker that's accommodating, going with them would be able to participate in the meal, in the food?
Again, we can ask the applicant when they come up, but my understanding would be if you have a reservation for 4, then 4 people are seated. Maybe there's 2, maybe there's 3 wine drinkers of the group, as typical in visiting many wineries, as far as the format.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I just asked the question because the wording is pretty strong the way you read it.
Sure.
And then just another question, if I remember right, as far as promotional events and special events, there's an acreage limitation?
So they're above that acreage threshold to have those.
Yeah, so in this case, it's 78 acres, so that really, the number of events that they can have is dependent on the number of acres.
That's correct, but it maxes at for agricultural promotional events, it's allowed across the board no matter the acreage, but for special events, it is capped at 200 people.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions from the commissioners? No? Is the applicant here today and would like to come speak or add any comments?
Good morning. My name is Jim Bob Kaufman. I'm the architect for this project and the creator of the graphics that you saw in the presentation. I'm representing the owners, Jim and Angela Sayre, in this, and have been part of this project since day one of the first day that we went out and looked at this property with nothing but grass and trees on it. So if you have some questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Questions for?
Yeah, I think I just asked a question
Yeah.
that maybe you can answer. I guess basically the way it's worded, if you're a non-drinker, you can't eat at the restaurant. But what I'm hearing is there may be exclusion to that if, they have to make reservations to eat at the restaurant. If you have a non-drinker, they could go ahead and eat as long as some of the people are purchasing wine. Is that the way it's worded, or where it should be worded, or what?
That's our understanding, the way the council described it. And there are two parts of that. One is we're not encouraging everyone to drink. We are encouraging someone to be a responsible driver. And the second part of that is that pairing food with wine is also a way to limit or mute, I guess, the alcohol intake as well. So the food has two purposes, as well as the cultural part of it, pairing food with wine. It's sort of a natural way to enhance both of those things. But we agreed that the language is very strict there, but the concept that we've been discussing is that it's reservation-based, not plate-based.
Okay, thank you. I guess that's something we can discuss later, if the language could be altered a little bit so it's more accurate in terms of what we're really planning on doing. Yeah.
Okay. Other questions? Commissioner
Yeah,
Jewell?
just a quick question. There's a lot of information on sound quality and acoustics on this. Is there, in the future, are there like other wineries in the area do concert events or anything like that? Is that anything that's planned
At this location?
at this location?
They are not planned in terms of concerts or events. That's a whole different planning section, an event center versus a winery. When I was working with Saxelby on the acoustical study, we talked a lot about where bands might be positioned, how speakers might be pointed in order to mitigate sound interference outside of the property lines. And on the graphics there that you saw, I think, and David probably can tell me better, but I think that the yellow, the sort of the light green, the second outer ring, is the county threshold for noise pollution, and the green on the outside of that is beyond the county threshold. So as you can see from those two graphics, even the one on the right where there's amplified sound on the patio, even there at Cabot-Stallman Road, it still meets the county's threshold for not being noise. In discussions with the acoustic guy, we talked about what kind of music would there be. Would there be a rock band? Would there be, something like that? And that's never ever been the intention of the owners to do that. These are more event-specific music selections, to be specific. If there's a wedding, there will be a DJ. There may be a live band. That's not the intention to have any kind of concert or anything like that, where there would be large numbers of people, large sound events.
Other questions? I just have one question, Jim. I'm familiar with wineries and promotional events. Maybe just share, because there were some concerns about what's considered promotional events, but maybe just share the vision for the Sayre Winery on some of the, yeah.
So the winery ordinance defines an agricultural promotional event as 50 people or less. And the idea is that you are trying to sell your wine, in this case, wine and olive oil, to the public. And so the agricultural promotional events would be things like winemakers' dinners, where it might be a tapas night with their red wine as the featured wine, or it could be a full sit-down dinner, all of which are 50 attendees or less. It could also be the wine pickup party for their wine club members. It could be a craft kind of situation where they're making wreaths for Christmas, but the focus is on, here is our wine, we really think you should buy this wine. The focus of the whole thing is promoting and selling the product that they're making there. The Sayres have been very creative in coming up with ideas for different kinds of events that appeal to different demographics and bringing more and more people into the facility, and have had a fun time doing that as well.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. If there's no other questions, I guess I would like to ask, because I'm going to ask him to agree to the conditions of approval. Can we clarify, based on Commissioner Johnson's question, that a reservation then allows, Jim, if you could maybe just stay up here, because I will have to ask you to agree to the conditions. Are
Yeah.
we clear that it's covered?
I would think that a modification to condition 3 would be in order based on Commissioner Johnson's comments. Perhaps a change from patrons to perhaps parties. Again, want to make sure that the applicant heard that. A change in condition 3, which currently states food service shall be limited to those patrons who have purchased a wine tasting. A change from patrons to parties, which would read food service shall be limited to those parties who have purchased a wine tasting.
Yeah, that works for us.
So that would be a suggestion if the commission is interested in
Okay.
making that revision.
Okay, thank you, Jim. And outside of that, are you agreeable with all the other recommended conditions of approval?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, with that, I am going to go ahead and open public comment. So the public has 3 minutes for each attendee. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come up and share their public comment? You can go ahead and line up here. And if you could state your name for the record and then begin your comment.
Hi, my name is Leah Walther. I'm a Granite Bay resident. I've lived there for 60 years. I live a half-mile south of the winery, and I will assure you that the sound is very, very impactful to my neighborhood. My neighborhood is generally off the Oak Pine and Itchy Acres area between Cabot-Stallman and Joe Rogers Road. I implore you to vote no on a permit for having 200 additional parties per year, which is what they are. They're parties and they're loud. When I sit out, when I'm got good weather, my windows are all open, and I can't open my windows and my doors when they're having an event at the winery because it's so loud in my backyard. There are no sound barriers, nothing to stop the sound from the winery coming all through our neighborhood. I'd encourage you to vote no on a restaurant in our rural neighborhood, which is located on a quiet 2-lane country road. The reasons are, this is zoned Res Ag, and Res Ag or residents or agriculture-related businesses. A winery is an agricultural business. I think we agree on that. Even a tasting room, agricultural. An event center is not. That is a party venue. It could be concerts, corporate events, weddings, whatever. Even though they say it's not concerts, call me skeptical on that one because I've been lied to before. And an event center is not an ag business, and in my opinion was inappropriately approved by the Placer County years ago. But now we're stuck with 5,000 square foot event center that supposedly has 12 events per year. By the way, more than 12. Just going to put that one out there. They've had more than 12. It's extremely loud, and having 200 extra events over what they have now basically turns my neighborhood into a permanent full-time wedding, corporate, concert event venue. And this is really an unacceptable intrusion into an area, very quiet, rural and semi-rural area. A restaurant is not an agricultural business. I think common sense dictates most people would define if you prepare food in a commercial kitchen and sell it for money, that's a restaurant. I'm sorry, calling it by other names is just rather cute and deceptive, but it's that is a restaurant, and whether you're selling it with wine or not, it's a restaurant. And I think a full-scale restaurant in an area not zoned for full-scale restaurants is what this is when you approve that. I am very, very supportive of local Granite Bay-based businesses. And having another restaurant in Granite Bay, I would cheer, yay. We love our good restaurants. I patronize all my local businesses as much as I can. And I would be thrilled to see another restaurant or a combined tasting room and restaurant put in the commercial area of Granite Bay where they belong, where the traffic accommodates them, and where I would eat there myself.
If you could go ahead and wrap up your
Okay.
comments.
If they want a restaurant, I would suggest they locate it there. Also, I'm concerned about the precedent this was set. Wineries aren't special. Why do they get special rules?
If you could, yeah, close your comments. We have everyone else has the
Okay,
time.
well,
Thank
I'm
you.
just saying, does my horse raising neighbor or my chicken raising neighbor get to have a restaurant on their property? I think the answer is no, so.
Thank you for your comments. You could state your name.
My name is Tim Wall. I live in Granite Bay, not too far from the winery. You know, I'm all in favor for this, and so I would ask for you to vote yes on it. I think it's really important that Jim and Angela get the support from you, and there are a number of reasons why I think that. First of all, I don't know if you know anything about the food service that they currently have. They use a food truck. And, you know, while that's all well and good, I actually think that an indoor kitchen would be really much more preferable, especially since it would add to the safety of the staff who work there. I don't know if you know, they walk a great distance, you know, and they're traversing the walkway and then they're going up a flight of stairs. It seems to me that just from a safety point of view, you'd want to bring that kitchen inside. That's one. Two, I'll say, as far as the traffic goes, you know, I've lived here in Granite Bay for 25 years, and it was great until about 2 or 3 years ago when all of the Bay Area and LA people moved in. And, you know, I don't have any problem with having new neighbors, but the traffic is, I mean, if traffic is a concern, I would say you should put that aside, because there's so much traffic, has nothing to do with the winery. And a few extra cars I just don't see. I don't know how you feel about that, but I just don't think it adds much in terms of the traffic on Cavett, Stallman, Barton Road. It's a freeway on Barton Road anymore, and I live right off of Barton, so you know I'm very familiar with the way it used to be and the way it is now. So those are two areas where I think it's no problem. Where I currently live is right off of Olive Ranch Road. And so the distance between the winery where I live, the winery, and the high school is about the same. I hear the band playing from the high school when they're practicing. I never hear anything from the winery where I am. And based upon the topography, I would suggest that the reason I can hear more of the noise coming from the high school is because it's a straight shot. Whereas the topography out there where the winery is, you know, it's kind of rolling hills and whatnot, and I think that actually would have some impact on the way the sound will emanate. Yeah, I can appreciate that maybe some people would object to these additions, but I certainly don't. I support it 100%. In fact, I really look forward to those changes because I do enjoy going out there myself. So,
Thank you for your comment. Hello.
Hi, Sue Abrahams. So I do oppose this project. I live just to the south of the winery, and noise is a huge issue. Sorry. So I can be sitting in my house. I have a house that blocks the winery, one house in between myself and the winery on the other side of Cavett. And I can be sitting in my house in the evening with the windows closed, and I can still hear the music coming from the winery. And it's happened on more than one occasion that they've gone past the time limit of 10 p.m. for their events. I just recently got the number that they're to call when they do go past that time, so I have put that issue out there before. I don't know what got followed up on that. As for traffic, I have lived in this area. I've lived in that house for 43 years, and traffic has increased generally in Granite Bay as we keep building and building and building. But the traffic from the winery has also increased. I've pulled out of my road behind someone who's come out of that winery, and they've been driving under the speed limit with, and someone said to call CHP, but by the time CHP finds them, you know, they're not gonna, I go my way, they go their way. So people do leave there that have been drinking, and we all know that drinking and driving is not good. So, and when you throw in that restaurant, sorry, I'm rambling, but you throw in that restaurant component of it, and as you said, Mr. Johnson, I mean, there is going to be that one person that's hopefully not going to be drinking, but will be eating. And I do believe that when you eat food at a restaurant, that's a commercial building, and we are not a commercial area. So I don't see how that getting away with one person making the reservation, but they're still eating the food, but they're not drinking. It's now become a commercial building. I think that's all I have to say on the issue. Yeah, please oppose this.
Okay.
Again, as Leah said, if they want to have a restaurant, Rayleigh's has some openings down there, and they can do a wine tasting and food restaurant there, but not in our little backyard. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good morning. My name is Ron Reisager. I am a direct neighbor and share 200 feet of property line with the winery just to the west, and I'm in full support of this project. What they've done there is marvelous. The evening events have a light music sound to them. It's not abnormal. It's not, obscene, and it shuts off typically between 9:45 and 10:05. Right on time. I've heard every event. I've been there for 9 years. I've watched everything they've developed at that property. They've done it with first class. They've done it with respect to the neighborhood. If that wasn't there as an ag event, it'd be chopped up into 5-acre parcels and another development. So to see that it's remaining ag and remaining ag business, I understand the ag business means they need to sell their product. That's why, 80 acres there, they need to be able to sell it. They have a nice event center. They have it done it very tastefully. I've eaten there and had dinner there and lunch there. The food truck is a joke. They do need a commercial kitchen to tuck their people in and be safer and better to serve the clients that go there to take. I've never drank a drop of alcohol in my entire life to this day, 49 years old, and I will go there and enjoy the food, enjoy the ambiance of the winery, and I love it. So I don't feel the traffic is even an issue whatsoever from their winery. The traffic on Barton and Cabot is busy anyway. You can't pinpoint that to the winery. It's a high-speed zone on Barton right now. As far as the actual project and being supported, I think we all need to support it. I love the ag business. That's the area we're in, and it's very tastefully done. So I want to thank you for your time and consideration, but please approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Hello.
Not sure I could add a whole lot more to that, but my name is Paul Norton. I'm a direct neighbor as well. And yeah, we fully support it. We go over there. We love to be able to walk over and enjoy the winery. I think with all the commercial stuff we have nowadays, everywhere you go looks so homogeneous. It's the same thing at every commercial center. It's really nice to have a real rural, unique restaurant or a place to go to enjoy with your family. Very nice to walk around, and I think if it doesn't get approved and things like this get shut down, it probably will be more homes and more traffic, and so we just really support the rural, nice atmosphere. We don't have any issue with noise. The limited noise we do hear is very happy sounds. We have a nice outdoor area in our backyard that directly looks at their winery, and so we hear a faint amount of sound that stops at 10 o'clock. That really is just happy noise. So I would fully support it, and I hope you guys do too.
Thank you for your comment.
Yep.
Good morning. My name's Kristen Peterson, and I live on Cabot Stallman, just west of the property. And I would say it's nice to have a winery in the area, and I'm in support of the winery. But what I haven't heard is the traffic. The traffic has increased, and it's not solely the fault of the winery. But if you do the calcs of adding 208 more venues per year with 203 people, you're talking about 43,000 more cars that are going to be traveling up and down that road. Again, it's not solely the problem of Twin Rocks, but it is certainly becoming a major contributor to the traffic congestion, the excessive speeds, people drinking, okay, that's one thing, but it's just the actual amount. I mean, do the calcs, it's a lot. And I don't know if we've done enough studies to say what kind of impact that'll have on our rural community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Minnie, and I am one of the managers at Twin Rocks. Been there for over a year. We have a passionate team at Twin Rocks that loves. We have a passionate team at Twin Rocks that loves to plant vines to harvest. We have passionate staff member that loves to cook to serve our guests. And we're asking for this kitchen to be inside the tasting room is for our safety, because we have to walk up a flight of stairs, and also to make sure that we are serving quality food to our guests. When we bring out a hot sandwich, by the time we get to the tasting room, it's cold because of the wind. We have to get umbrellas to cover the food. And the food comes first sometimes, because sometimes I fall on the stairs and I'm holding the plate. So we're not asking for big changes at the winery. We're just asking for this kitchen so that we can do what we love, cook great food, serve our guests, and give an experience that everyone deserves. You know, every day is hectic. You need a place in your neighborhood where you could come together and meet the other neighbors and just enjoy your time. Our clientele and our guests are responsible neighbors that live nearby. We do often have people that come out of town, but they are very respectful and they deserve the experience that we are willing to give. So we're just asking you to please give us this opportunity to do what we love and to continue to give experiences to our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello, I'm Stacia Olson, and I'm a neighbor down the street. And I just wanted to speak in support of the Twin Rocks Kitchen. We have been going there since it started way back. I've eaten out of the food trucks many times, and I really appreciate that we're able to have food with our wine when we go there. It helps kind of keep the consumption down, so we're not like overindulging. But not only that, I'm in the tourism business, and it really is wonderful to have this in our community. And I just wanted to make note of the noise. There's not a whole lot of noise when there are events. We can hear more from our neighbor who parties late than the actual winery. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this item? Do I have anyone on the accommodation?
I see no hand raised.
Okay, I am going to go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the commission. Would staff like to speak to any of the items raised in public comment before we come back to the commission?
I think we do. I have a couple of items I want to touch, and perhaps David may want to head to the podium and address a couple of others.
Okay.
I wanted to address a couple of comments that were made about just the events that might take place on the property and really clarify. I know David did a good job with his presentation, but just again, clarify once again the difference between the agricultural promotional events and the special events. I think a comment was made that this will allow for up to 200 weddings or other types of events there. And really to clarify that the agricultural promotional events that are proposed here to be at 208 are those that were specified by the applicant's representative about winemaker dinners, release parties, things like that that are where the principal attraction is the wine or olive oil product. The special events are those weddings, and those were limited to 12 per year. So wanted to provide that clarification.
Hey, Chris?
Yes.
The agricultural promotional, they're limited to 50 people, correct?
They are limited to 50 people, correct. There were also a number of comments about traffic, and I do want to mention that and reemphasize that there is a limitation on the number of patrons visiting the property at 203. That's how the project was previously analyzed. There's no changes. There's a condition of approval that restates that daily limit of people at the property. So the actions before the commission today don't increase the number of people that are able to be at the winery from what was previously analyzed and previously allowed through the ARP. The last item that I wanted to note was just about the notion of this being a restaurant or commercial business on the property. And, in terms of what is before the commission, it is a request for a conditional use permit for an accessory restaurant, which that decision about whether or not that is able to be coupled with a winery or farm brewery has previously been considered and adopted by the Board of Supervisors back in 2020 with the adoption of the winery and farm brewery ordinance. So it's clearly an allowable use subject to a condition of, subject to a conditional use permit to allow for an accessory restaurant, one that is incidental and accessory to a primary use, which here clearly the primary use is the winery. So I wanted to provide those clarifications. I don't know, perhaps David has any additional clarifications before we see if there's questions from the commission.
Thank you, Chris. David, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just reiterate that a traffic study was prepared by Fair and Pierce that did look at intersection level of service, and it maintained that the levels of service would be maintained at the B or better level, depending on the time of day. Varies, can be as good as A, but worst case scenario is B. From a noise perspective, I would just say that with the acoustical analysis or noise study that we have now, we do have actual data and thresholds as to which we can measure and define conditions of approval that we will hold them to, so it will be likely a better condition than even existing. And then for the purposes of CEQA, for noise, hearing something isn't necessarily always an impact. It has to be above the threshold of the noise ordinance to be considered a impact. So, yeah, that's all I have to add.
Thank you, David.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Commissioners, questions that you might have or comments?
Yeah, just a couple comments. One presenter indicated traffic at 40, came up with a number of 40,000. 208 times a maximum of 50 is about 10,000. Not every single person is going to drive their own car, so let's say there's 2 people to a car, now we're down to 5,000, and that's assuming that every day is a maximum capacity. So I think that traffic number is significantly lower than stated and somewhat insignificant. Another item that wasn't really brought up, but I know the food truck will be leaving, but maybe not a significant number, but it will be employment opportunities for a few individuals to come and work there, which I'm always for employment opportunities. And the footprint is staying within the structure as it is at 438 square feet, which is a roughly 20 by 22 area. So that seems somewhat insignificant to me and does not expand on the footprint of the current facility. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Are there other questions or comments? I only have two comments and questions. One is I did ask county staff ahead of the hearing to see if there were any open code violations or substantiated violations, just to check to see if the neighbor has been a good neighbor. And if the staff could just confirm, I know that I'm not dismissing the concerns that were raised, but just wanted the staff to confirm if there were any open violations currently.
No, there are no open violations currently, and we also have our code enforcement manager here, Zach Sanders, if there are any further code questions.
Okay, and also for the folks, because I live in Granite Bay too, and I also hear the high school band every Friday, but I do want to say for the folks in Granite Bay, if they don't know, that you can contact code enforcement if there is noise that exceeds limits, especially if it's outside of hours. I think 10 o'clock is the max, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Okay, okay. And then I had some concerns about the traffic, but I think those were addressed as well. I did look at the comments. I'm familiar with the project from the original approval. And so I really appreciate everyone showing up to participate and providing their comments. I do look at, the effect overall and definitely want to make sure we address concerns. And for those directly affected by the winery, it seems like there is a lot of support. And I think the fact that Twin Rocks Winery has been a good neighbor up to this point, I think helps demonstrate, at least for me, it's one of the thresholds I like to say to expand a use on a property. So those are my comments right now. Do you want to say anything about the modified condition?
Yeah,
Okay.
think we want to.
Yeah, so
I think when we look at the motion, hopefully we can look at it as modified.
Yeah, so
Clayton, yeah.
if the commission's ready to move towards a motion, item A on the recommendation would stay the same. Item B would be modified to note that conditional use permit would be modified at condition of approval number 3. And I'm happy to read B into the record when we get to that point.
Okay. Is there any more deliberation or comments?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
I appreciate your motion and your amendment to the conditional use permit, as I have been several times the designated driver for my family and friends to the facility. So I'm glad I'll be able to continue to come out there as part of a party. Thank you.
Okay. So I think we're ready to move to motion. Commissioner Johnson, would you like to open it up since you brought up the modification?
I guess we've already entered the wording into the minutes, so at any rate, I would make a motion to adopt.
And just to clarify, that's pursuant to item A listed in the recommendation. That's what your motion is, correct? As worded by staff.
And we'll take these separate.
Yes, these
Okay.
will be separate.
Okay, I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second, that motion?
Okay, Ron Teen, second. Could I get a roll call, please?
Johnson,
Yes?
Runtine,
Yes.
Watts,
Yes.
Jewel,
Yes.
Alves,
Yes.
Beckler,
Yes. Okay,
Then for item B, the suggested motion would be to approve a conditional use permit as modified at condition of approval number 3 to allow for an accessory use restaurant at the existing Twin Rocks Estate Winery and grant zoning clearance to conduct up to 208 agricultural promotional events and 12 special events annually, consistent with the allowances set forth in Placer County Code Section 17.56.330, wineries and farm breweries, subject to the recommended conditions of approval.
okay.
Okay, and that was, the modification was specifically?
Yes, correct, that was modified.
Okay. So I would make a motion that we approve item B, which is a conditional use permit as stated.
Okay,
Second that?
we have a first and second. Roll call, please.
Johnson,
Yes?
Runtine,
Yes.
Watts,
Yes.
Jewel,
Yes.
Alves,
Yes.
Beckler,
Yes. Okay, that closes this item. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
Chair, there would be appeal rights for this as
Yeah,
well.
oh, thank you. So the decision of the Planning Commission may be appealed by anyone who appeared at today's hearing and provided comment, or anyone that submitted written comments on this item. An appeal must be filed within 10 days of today's date and shall be accompanied by a filing fee of $752. Okay, that moves us to our last item on today's agenda, which is, thank you. I'm still getting used to this. The last item on the agenda is the amendment to the Eagles Nest Mine Reclamation Plan.
Okay, so I have to say that I'm going to recluse myself from this because as a district ranger of the area that over this mine, I oversaw the early initial development of this operating plan, so I'm reclused. We'll see you next week.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. We'll give you a moment to collect your things and and go out the door. Okay, so for this item, the Planning Commission is the decision body, and the presentation will be given by Senior Planner David Olroy Orraz. So welcome back, David.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair Beckler, Commissioners. I'm David Orieros again, here with the Eagles Nest Mine Reclamation Plan Amendment Conditional Use Permit, which in short proposes an additional mining waste material site on approximately 1 acre, as well as the extension of an existing roadway to serve as an emergency exit to a secondary mining portal and a corresponding reclamation plan amendment. So the project is located at 26600 Mosquito Ridge Road in the Forest Combining Minimum Building Site of 160 acre zoning district within the Timberland 80-acre minimum land use designation of the Forest Hill Divide Community Plan area and within the Tahoe National Forest, approximately 0.56 miles north of the middle fork of the American River. The Eagles Nest mine is comprised of two 20-acre mining claims known as the Red Ink Mine and Big Seam claims, with documented mine activity dating to the establishment of these claims in 1907. However, given the existence of hydraulic mining scars and the 1884 ban on hydraulic mining in California, there is reason to believe it likely occurred earlier. In 1975, the California Surface Mining and Reclamation Act, also known as SMARA, was enacted with the purpose of ensuring mine lands are properly reclaimed after use. The threshold set by SMARA for the requirement of a reclamation plan is 1 acre of disturbance, and the project meets this threshold. As the mining activity is located within a national forest and includes site disturbance, the United States Forest Service requires a plan of operation detailing mining operations, location, site access, mining methods and equipment used, schedule, reclamation plans, and environmental protection measures. The initial plan of operation for the site was approved in 1987 and was subsequently updated in 2005 and 2020, most recently in conjunction with the proposed scope in 2025. Concurrent with the 2005 plan of operation, the Forest Service prepared an environmental assessment pursuant to the National Environmental Policy Act, also known as NEPA, to analyze potential impacts resulting from mining operations, and subsequently a finding of no significant impact, also known as a FONSI, was made determining that the project would be unlikely to result in a health or safety risk to the public, and that there would be no significant effect on unique characteristics of the area, as there are no parklands, prime farmlands, historical or cultural resources, wetlands, wild and scenic rivers, or ecologically critical areas in the vicinity of the proposed mining operation. Further noting that the operation would not affect any endangered, threatened, sensitive species or rare or watch list plants because none are known to exist in the area. In December 2006, the zoning administrator approved the existing reclamation plan currently in effect, and in 2022, the mosquito fire did come across the property and burned vegetation. So the existing reclamation plan adopted in 2005 set forth a reclamation strategy for the end of mining operations on the site, which is proposed for December of 2038. Mining operations at the time of reclamation plan adoption included 5 waste rock dump sites, a mine portal, a secondary portal for air intake, a graded work area, and access roads. The reclamation strategy adopted at the time included removal of all roads and improvements and revegetation of these areas with native seeds and the planting of 25 ponderosa pine and 25 live oaks per acre. Noting that the dump sites would lack topsoil due to the waste rock dumped, the reclamation plan called for the creation of planter wells of approximately 3 feet by 10 feet by removing large waste rocks and filling in with soil and compost, and subsequently planting with native seeds, and again, 25 ponderosa pine and 25 live oaks per acre. I would note that since approval of the 2005 reclamation plan, dump sites 1 through 4 have been signed off by the Division of Mine Reclamation as reclamation was completed. However, the mosquito fire did burn across the site after that determination, destroying nearly all of the vegetation on the site, including that associated with the reclamation plan. That brings us to the proposed reclamation plan amendment before you today, which is to add a 6th dump site filling a historic mining hydroscore and associated roadways, and extend an existing roadway to serve as an emergency exit to the secondary mining portal. This would use the same reclamation strategy as the 2005 reclamation plan, with the creation of planter wells planted with native seeds and tree plantings, and the removal of roadways and planting of native species in their place. So here we have some site photos. Here is the existing dump site 5, kind of showing the what it looks like when the waste rock is dumped during mining operations. And then on the right is the proposed area for dump site 6. So the site does have a significant slope ranging up to approximately an 85% grade. As such, there's always the concern of erosion and slope instability, especially when combined with the fairly recent fire coming across the site. So to ensure that site stability will be maintained, the applicant consulted with an engineer who developed a Hillfiker wall system, which is a type of mechanically stabilized earth wall. One wall would be at the peak of dump site 5, and the other would be at the base of proposed dump site 6. We do have a graphic here. County engineering and surveys did review this proposal and found it to be appropriate. And engineering and surveys would also conduct annual inspections to ensure that the wall system is adequately maintained and its integrity is maintained in accordance with the specifications as developed by that engineer. Best management practices for erosion control are also included in the existing reclamation plan as Appendix A. These have been incorporated into the mitigation measures for the project and include items such as directing drainage away from the dump sites, the keying or benching of roadways, and limitations on transverse roadway fill slope length. Regarding environmental review, a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program were prepared for the project and circulated on August 22nd, with no comments received outside of a non-project specific general requirements letter from the Regional Water Quality Control Board. The analysis concluded that the project is not expected to result in a significant environmental impact with the incorporation of mitigation measures, specifically related to biological resources, cultural resources, geology and soil, hydrology and water quality, and wildfire. The project was heard by the Forest Hill Forum on July 7th, 2025, and community response was positive, with no significant concerns raised by the community members. Community members expressed support for the project, noting the role of mining in the Forest Hill community and its historic context to the community. So some final key points. The project will maintain the existing reclamation strategy established by the current mining operations and allow the addition of an approximately 1 acre new dump site with accessory roadways and a new emergency access road to the mine. The project can be found consistent with both the general plan and Forest Hill Divide Community Plan. The general and mining specific findings for the granting of a conditional use permit can be made as discussed in the staff report. There is also the assurance that site stability will be maintained with the incorporation of best management practices and the engineered Hillfiker wall system. The Forest Hill Forum and community response was also supportive of the project. Staff also notes that this item was continued from the September 25th Planning Commission hearing due to late comments received by the California Division of Mine Reclamation related to minor technical language concerns related to site reclamation performance standards. The reclamation plan has been updated to reflect the direction received from the division, and the division has subsequently provided their support. And with that, that concludes my staff, with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the mitigated negative declaration, State Clearinghouse number 2025-081053, and mitigation monitoring and reporting program prepared for the project pursuant to Section 15070 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines and Section 18.16.010 of the Placer County Environmental Review Ordinance, negative declarations, and approve the conditional use permit to amend the previously approved Eagles Nest Mine Reclamation Plan to allow for establishment of a new overburden waste materials dump site of approximately 1 acre for the disposition of materials extracted during the mining process, subject to the recommended conditions of approval, and approve the Eagles Nest Mine Reclamation Plan amendment. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. We're also joined by Ian Merkel of the applicant team.
Okay, thank you, David. Are there any questions for David?
Questions or comments?
Just questions first. No questions? Is the applicant here if he'd like to come up and make a couple comments?
Hello, Commissioners. Thanks for having me and thanks for hearing this. My name is Ian Merkel. I represent the owners, Daniel Trinchillo and Marissa Chung. They have their office in New Jersey, which is why they cannot be here. I am a geologist, and I just have a few points I wanted to present to you guys to help you better understand. I've been working for the owners for 10 years, and they have proven themselves to strictly do what is best, follow the law, and always err on the side of doing what's right. There's a thing to note with this project is that it actually is a reclamation of this historic mining. There's a big chasm that was eroded through hydraulic mining a long, long time ago. That is what we are filling. So we are actually restoring the canyon in that one specific spot back to the natural grade that was there before and planting it with native seeds. We started doing this. I started doing this with the company on site. After the fire came through is when we started building on top of the hill thicker wall in the lower dump. And I had been personally planting that dump for the last 3 years, and you can barely tell the bottom of the dump is a dump anymore. So the methods are working. Lots of native plants are growing, all sorts of species, both ones that I planted and ones that came in while scavenging the soil in there. So the method works really well, and I hope to work with the Forest Service, Department of Conservation, and anyone else inclined in the future to help establish a study through my documentation. As a scientist, I document everything to help establish successful reclamation criteria in the forest for future mining operations should they come up. Another thing to note is that this project will allow us to continue the mine and create a few additional specialized jobs, which are hard to come by. It's hard for us to find employees. So we have been training a lot of local people to do this type of specialized work, which has applications not just in the underground mining, but just in development across the state. So that's an additional plus. And this project will help to ensure Placer County's history as a significant gold producer in the world. And specifically, this mine is already considered to be one of the foremost crystallized gold deposits on Earth. And so this project will allow Placer County to shine in the world by allowing gold mining and producing some of, if not the world's greatest crystallized gold specimens. And if y'all are interested, if you Google Eagles Nest Gold and look at the images, you'll see of what has been produced historically from the previous generations of owners, including what we have already produced in the last year or so. We have had a little bit of good luck to start us. Let me just look to make sure I touched on all my points quickly. One last thing, I just wanted to comment on what David said with the fire destroying the previous reclamation. It did affect a lot of the previous reclamation. However, it didn't kill everything. And a number of the planter wells that we created when we bought the mine in 2018 and started operations in 2019, a bunch of those wells still have trees that we had planted that survived the fire, largely because the rocks around the edges of the dump piles prevented the fire from getting into the interior and killing those plants. With that,
Thank you.
I've finished, yeah.
If you could just wait one moment. Any questions? Okay, thank you. And if I could just ask, are you agreeable with the recommended conditions of approval that have been spoken to today?
Yes, and I've reviewed them with the owners and we are agreeable.
Thank you. Okay. I will go ahead and open up public comment. I don't see anyone in the audience, so I'm assuming no one's here to speak about it. Do we have anyone via accommodation?
I see no hand raised.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment on this item. And Commission, is there any comments or questions that you'd like to make?
I have.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank staff for touching on the issue of the state review and the acceptance of the project as it is. I think that was my main concern about this. And I appreciate the effort you went through and that the project proponent went through.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only comment I had, I appreciate your comments about the reclamation. I was wondering how effective it really is actually for revegetation. Someone that does that kind of work myself as a hobby. It's hard to get oak trees and pine trees to grow, but it sounds like you have successful measures in place. So,
Yeah, I've actually,
if you could come up to the,
I plan, now that the rainy season's back, we've gone through the whole dry season. Since I planted a large amount of acorn seeds last year, and I documented that a lot of them germinated. I didn't count them, but I just documented them. And then I let it sit for the whole dry season, and I went back through right before the rainy season, and I did find some died, but I did find a number of them survived. So through this, we can learn and adapt and see if there's a reason why those survived to continue the odds of the oak trees and the pine trees in specific surviving. The lupin, the yerba santa, a lot of those things, they're really easy. They just grow everywhere. But some of the trees are more difficult. So I am paying close attention, and so far, everything looks really good.
okay, thank you. Other comments? All right, I would entertain a motion if any of the commissioners would like to do that.
Each of these should be taken separately.
Oh, I'm sorry, Clayton.
Say that again?
Each of these should be taken separately.
Okay,
But they have been read into the record, so you can refer to them as
Okay.
1A, 1B, and 1C.
thank you.
Make a motion, the Planning Commission take the following actions to approve item 1A as read into the record by staff.
I'll second.
Okay, Alves first, Jewel second. Could I get a roll call, please?
Alves,
Yes?
Jewel,
Yes.
Watts,
Yes.
Rentine,
Yes.
Beckler,
Yes.
Make a motion, Planning Commission take action to approve item 1B as read into the record by staff.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second. Roll call, please.
Alves,
Yes?
Jewel,
Yes.
Watts,
Yes.
Rentine,
Yes.
Beckler,
Yes.
Make a
Okay,
motion, Planning Commission take action to approve item 1C as read into the record by staff.
Second.
we have a first and second. Roll call, please.
Alves,
Yes?
Jewel,
Yes.
Watts,
Yes.
Rentine,
Yes.
Beckler,
Yes. Okay, that closes this item, and since there was no public comment, I won't read the appeal language. Thank you, everyone that's still here for attending today's meeting. The meeting is now adjourned.